Good morning. It's shortly after 9 o'clock. It is March 19th, and it's an exciting morning at the County Council. We are celebrating women today, and we are here with our amazing colleagues and some amazing leaders in county government. And it's just a really exciting opportunity for us to have this special commemoration celebrating Women's History Month. Each March, we honor the women who have touched our lives and who have shaped our community and beyond. I'm proud to be celebrating the contributions and achievements of some of the amazing women that we have in Montgomery County and specifically in Montgomery County government today, including our wonderful colleagues on this dais, Council Members Marilyn Balcom, Natalie Fani Gonzalez, Dawn Lukey, Kristen Mink, Lorianne Sales, and Vice President Kate Stewart. It has never been more important. It has never been more important for women's voices to be heard. So I'm thrilled that we have seen growing representation of women in office in Montgomery County and in Maryland. Now with the most diverse majority female council in Montgomery County history. From my personal perspective as a son, grandson, brother, uncle, and fiance to powerful women and girls who have heavily influenced and inspired me each and every day of my life, I've always been passionate about creating opportunities for women and strengthening and protecting the rights of women. During this Women's History Month and every month throughout the year, we must continue to do all we can to support women in Montgomery County. Happy Women's History Month, and thank you to all of the powerful, talented women who have joined us today and allowed us the privilege to be able to honor you. With that, let me turn it over to my colleagues. Councilmember Balcom.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here, and I just want to give a major shout out to every single person, every single woman in the audience, and girls. Thank you for coming. I think that today is part of Women's History Month. We've been celebrating all month. It's been great. But women do the work every single day. It's not just Women's History Month. It's not just Women's History Year. Women have been doing this since the dawn of time. And so I just wanted to lift up every single person in this room. It's great to have a great geographical spread. Shout out to the women from the Up County. Thank you all for being here. And particularly the women that we're going to honor today. You have been women leaders in the county, and we appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fani Gonzalez.
I just want to echo Councilmember Balcom's words, and I would just add that as women, we also need to ensure that we're a great role model for the young girls who we have in our lives, not just our children, but also their friends, and making sure that we inspire them and really give them the tools so they don't have to go through the political nightmare that we're living after the Supreme Court made that decision, making sure that they understand that they have rights and that we never take no. So that's what I have in my mind right now. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Sales.
Happy Women's History Month, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It feels like we've been celebrating Women's History Month all month long. A few weeks ago, we celebrated International Women's Day Up County at Black Rock, and many of you were there with us to celebrate. And we heard from some young women who gave us an inspiring poem to remind us about the young people in our lives, as Councilmember Fani Gonzalez said. Before the council, we had many dynamic women. I want to uplift Councilmember Nancy Navarro, Councilmember Nancy Florine, and former Councilmember Valerie Irvin. We stand on the shoulders of these women who came before us, and I'm so proud to be able to serve in this capacity with these women and look forward to presenting this proclamation on this momentous occasion today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Mink.
It is so fun to be here with all of you powerful women today. I'm so glad to be able to celebrate with you and to appreciate and lift up the amazing work that you all are doing. I want to give a special shout out to some of the folks who are here, who are community organizers and community advocates and folks doing hard work on the ground in Leisure World. For Burtonsville Elementary School, we have tenant organizers from the Enclave Apartments and from Spring Park Apartments. We have leaders in the fields of arts and healthcare and trans rights and so many more. And just to all be in the same room together, supporting each other, lifting each other up is truly, truly an honor. So thank you all so much. Thank you to all my colleagues on the council for coming together and lifting all of us up together. And I look forward to the rest of the day and the rest of this month and the rest of our good work together.
Thank you. Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, echoing great gratitude for the assembly of fantastic humans here today who happen to be women. And I would love to celebrate our public safety partners who were here. Lieutenant Stacy Romano, Lieutenant Kathy Estrada, and Commander Amy Dom. And each one of you I have known in different contexts, and each one of them is professionally outstanding, but also, women who do all the other many things that we do. And as we were at Black Rock last week waiting to speak, and Commander Dom, thank you for jumping up and jumping in with my presentation as well. But, we were on the sidelines there talking about how to handle storage of lacrosse equipment and hockey gear and everything else we have to manage and take care of in our households. And then you can turn on a dime and be talking about an incredibly serious professional issue at the same time. That's what we do. Women are natural jugglers of a great many things and project managers. And I appreciate each and every one of you for what you do each and every day. And I look forward to celebrating you all with our proclamation. So thank you.
Thank you. And I also wanted to note that not only are we celebrating the 5 women here on the dais and everybody who has come to receive the proclamation and all those in the county, but Vice President Kate Stewart as well, who is at the Smart Cities Conference on a trade mission with the county executive on behalf of the council in Taiwan. So I just wanted to note that. We celebrate her and all of you. I will say that, gentlemen, we are outnumbered here, and that's a great thing. So just wanted to note that. And with that, we have a proclamation to read that all colleagues will participate in, and I will begin. Whereas women of every race, class, religion, and ethnic background have made extraordinary contributions to the growth and strength of Montgomery County, our nation, and the world in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women have fought for and worked tirelessly to secure their own independence, enfranchisement, and equal opportunities, and have spearheaded efforts to create a fairer and more equitable world for all. And
whereas, after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, Congress officially recognized March as Women's History Month in 1987 to celebrate the contributions women have made to the United States and their achievements throughout American history. And
whereas, while women have made great strides towards equity and equality, we cannot rest until our mothers, sisters, and daughters assume their rightful place as full participants in a secure, prosperous, and just society. And
whereas archaic stereotypes about gender roles help perpetuate the gender pay gap and undervalue the work of women. While comprising more than half of the college-educated workforce, women in the U.S. earn approximately 71 cents on the dollar compared to their male counterparts at the same education level, and women continue to be underrepresented in the highest paying careers. And
whereas, despite these challenges, the accomplishments of women have been critical to the growth and development of the economy, medical and scientific discoveries, cultural and artistic expression, social advancement, and more. And
whereas Montgomery County has a rich history filled with women trailblazers. Some examples include Rachel Carson, the mother of the modern environmental movement, Clara Barton, founder of the American Red Cross, and Emily Edmondson, an abolitionist whose attempt to escape enslavement helped end slavery in the United States. And
whereas today, the 20th Montgomery County Council includes 6 women council members who are each making history of their own and together comprise a majority of the legislative body. And
whereas the theme for Women's History Month this year is Women Leaders in Montgomery County Government, in recognition of the outstanding women who serve our community with dedication, expertise, integrity, and professionalism. And
whereas Montgomery County is a welcoming community for all women, thanks to strong support from countless community leaders, government officials, nonprofit organizations, and county agencies. And
whereas during Women's History Month, we commemorate the struggles, celebrate centuries of progress, and reaffirm our steadfast commitment to women's rights in Montgomery County, the United States, and worldwide. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland recognizes March as Women's History Month, presented on this 19th day of March in the year 2024.
Congratulations. We have some directors. We have the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer. We have the Executive Director of this body. We have the Executive Director of the County's Commission for Women. We'd like to invite you up: Fariba Kassiri, Tracy Anderson, Ramona Bell Pearson, Jennifer Bryant, Kathy Durbin, Mitty Figueredo, Jody Finkelstein, Marlene Michelson, Robin Riley, Gail Roper, Anita Vassallo, and anybody else who's been invited. And we want to officially present you with the proclamation. So if colleagues want to come down, and we'll present the proclamation. And anybody else who wants to come up and join. Yeah.
Business and professional woman, empower.
okay. Breakfast guests, come on down.
Yes.
Now's your time to shine.
Everyone. Our Board of Education member is here. Thank you.
Also want to acknowledge on the Board of Education, we have Grace Rivera Oven, and we have a contingent from the Congressman Raskin office, and a number of other colleagues. All right, before we take our official picture, we're going to have the highest ranking official in county government, someone who has served in just about every single role, I think, in county government, Fariba Kassiri, say a few words, and then Jody, our Executive Director of the Commission for Women.
Thank you, Council President. They often say you are judged by the company you keep. This is an extraordinary company to be included with. Thank you for celebrating Women's History Month, and we appreciate the honor from the County Council. Thank you. I would note how significant it means to have an all-female majority. Also, I would note how many more female council staff, chiefs of staff, there are now more than in the past. Back in 2006, when I joined the Office of the County Executive, we had close to 3,600 female employees that work for Montgomery County. Now we have a little over 4,300. But the most significant progress we have made is in the leadership roles. Of these women being honored today, other than 3 who took over directorships from a woman, every other position used to be held by a man. Most importantly, most of these women, almost 95%, worked for county for many years and were promoted for these significant leadership positions. That is just an incredible accomplishment, and I'm so proud to be part of this organization. It is no secret that I don't like talking about myself. I mostly prefer to stay in the background and be focused on the work. I see every day the amazing work of tens of thousands of county employees, 43% of them women, and it's hard for me to recognize what makes me so special. I might not be good at talking about myself, but I do recognize what I am really good at, and that is creating a work environment where everyone can feel valued, empowered, and thrive. My biggest professional thrill don't come from what I have done. I get most excited and energized from watching employees be given an opportunity, overcome challenges, and continue to come to work every day excited to make something better for our residents. It is often said that to be successful as a woman in government or business or in society, you need to be assertive, you need to lean forward. That is good and needed advice to the next generation of female leaders and history makers. But I would also add the following: never underestimate the power of patience, understanding that learning is a lifelong endeavor, and that our best legacy is not about ourselves getting ahead, but what we are doing for those that are following. There's a famous anonymous quote: beware the quiet man. For our purposes today, I'm going to co-opt it to read, beware the quiet woman. Beware the quiet woman. For while others speak, she watched. And while others act, she plans. And when they finally rest, she strikes. Thank you.
I love that. And now the fearless leader of our Commission for Women, Jody, come on up.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. What an honor it is to be here. I really would like to thank everybody in front of me and, of course, everybody next to me. And I'm going to say besides me because I never would say behind me on anything. As Fariba shared, it really is an honor to be here. And again, I really thank everybody. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank all of the commissioners on the Montgomery County Commission for Women, as well as all of the members of the Human Trafficking Prevention Committee, both past and present. They do a tremendous job for women and victims of human trafficking in our community, and I really want to take a moment to thank them. I certainly wouldn't be here without them. I would also like to say that maybe not a lot of people know this, but in addition to it being Women's History Month, it is also Social Work Appreciation Month. And the reason why I share that is because I'm actually honored to have earned a Master's of Social Work from the University of Maryland School of Social Work. And as many of you know, many social workers are also women, so I think that's very important to note here today. I'm not sure, again, if many of you know, but social work was started by many people, but in particular Jane Addams, who actually started Whole Houses, which were settlement communities in Chicago. And she was also the second female Nobel Peace Prize winner. So I really wanted to acknowledge her on all of the work that she has done. She, like many women, paved the way for myself and all of these wonderful individuals behind me. Other notable social workers include Barbara Mikulski, our former senator from Maryland, Dr. Dorothy Height, who worked in the civil rights movement, and one of my personal favorites, Dr. Brene Brown, who is a professor and research, who continues to study courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. And as an aside, I just want to mention both Senator Mikulski and Dr. Height were speakers at the Montgomery County Commission for Women Women's Legislative Briefing. So I share this to show how we elevate all women, but also as a personal invitation to Dr. Brene Brown, if you happen to be listening, you're always welcome to visit Montgomery County and the Commission for Women. Yeah, help me with that invitation. Before concluding, I want to also acknowledge that we are celebrating women of the past, but I also want to celebrate our emerging leaders. And in keeping with the theme of Women's History Month and Social Work Month, I really want to take a minute again to highlight our social work internship program that we have at the Montgomery County Commission for Women. And as a plug, I want to encourage students to apply because it's not just an experience, it's a pipeline for employment. And I would like to thank the county executive and county council for making that a paid internship now, especially for social work interns. And also acknowledge 3 wonderful women who have had the honor of working with, who were former interns with the Commission for Women, who are now employed with Montgomery County government. Jenny Escobar and Holly Mancuso, who both work, we go back, give them a little love, who work for Montgomery County Council members, and then Carmen Karen, who, again, as I mentioned, is a former intern, is also the program manager for the Commission for Women. So thank you all to those, thank you to those wonderful emerging leaders. Thank you again for this incredible honor. And as Eleanor Roosevelt, one of my sheroes, once said, nothing has ever been achieved by the person who says it can't be done.
Accept this on behalf of all.
excuse me if, are we live? If anyone has a proclamation, a mom and pop proclamation, if you can just bring it back to the front, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, congratulations again, and thank you to all of the extraordinary and talented women that we have in county government serving our community on a day-to-day basis, and thank you to all of our colleagues as well. That was a great celebration for Women's History Month. We are now going to move on to general business. The minutes from the council meetings on February 12th, 13th, 26th, 27th, 2024 have been submitted to the council for approval. Are there any objections to approving these minutes? Seeing none, those minutes stand.
Mr. President.
And moving on to general business, are there any announcements?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. There are two announcements today. We had 2 items added to today's agenda. Item 9, the consent calendar. We've added item C, introduction for the FY25 solid waste service charges. And item D is the introduction of FY25 water quality protection charge. There is a public hearing for both items scheduled on April 9th, 2024 at 1:30 p.m. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. This is legislative session day number 7. Item 1 on the agenda is the introduction of bills. There is one bill for introduction, Bill 524, Finance Child Investment Fund. The lead sponsors are Councilmember Jawando and Councilmember Albernaz. A public hearing will be scheduled at a later date. Let me turn it over to one of the lead sponsors, Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a cool day, and it's cool that we're doing this on this day. It just worked out that way. Colleagues, it's my pleasure to co-introduce the Child Investment Fund as part of our commitment to building a more just, caring, and equitable future for all Montgomery County residents. My deepest gratitude to my co-lead sponsor, Councilmember Gabe Albernaz, and his team for their partnership on this effort, which has been years in the making. To my staff, Christina, Marisa, and Michelle, for their hard work and diligence, and to our council attorney, Ms. Christine Wellens, for her impeccable work, and she'll correct whatever we say wrong at the end here. The Child Investment Fund, or CIF, will help Montgomery County grow our own future entrepreneurs, homeowners, and business leaders while reducing the racial wealth gap and systemic barriers to generational wealth building. Montgomery County will lead the way as the first local jurisdiction in Maryland to pursue a program of this kind. The first of its kind legislation is grounded in research and policy best practices from jurisdictions that have introduced or implemented a similar program known as baby bonds. The fund is built on the clear premise that every child born in Montgomery County should have the opportunity to build generational wealth and to utilize this fund to live, thrive, and invest in our county. The racial wealth gap is real and impacts communities of color and low-income families across the United States. In 2021, for example, a white household had roughly 9 times as much wealth as a black household, or 5 times as much as a Hispanic household. In Montgomery County, 2022 data shows that the highest 20% of earners took home more than 15 times as much as the lowest 20% of earners. From histories of redlining and racial covenants to discriminatory financial practices in the real estate and business industries, segregated schools, workplace discrimination, and many other systemic and institutional barriers, communities of color have been unable to access key tools to wealth building. Today, we set a clear marker that Montgomery County is the place where all families can live, grow, and thrive. Simply put, this is a major investment in our people. As outlined in the bill, the fund is managed by the county's finance department. It establishes an advisory committee to oversee funding and disbursement. The fund would be subject to annual appropriation by the council based on the annual estimated number of births in the county. The advisory committee is responsible for determining disbursement amounts in line with the legislation for eligible participants based on an applicant's income and assets at the time of application. The Child Investment Fund has, importantly, universal eligibility for any child born in Montgomery County on or after January 1st, 2024. This is essential because we want to incentivize all of our young people to create opportunities in our county. To help address the racial wealth gap, as I mentioned, disbursements will be adapted to reflect the needs of income and wealth, and we'll be advised on that and set that up as we move along over the next 18 years together, hopefully. Together, universal eligibility and adaptive disbursements maximize doing the most good for our young people in addressing systemic barriers at the same time. Our young people in our future will be better equipped to pursue higher education, to invest in real estate here in the county, and businesses in our county, and invest in their retirement, which are the 4 uses of the fund. When our people do better, we all do better. When they grow their wealth, that grows our county's wealth. When their well-being is improved, our county thrives. And the Child Investment Fund is an ambitious and forward-thinking part of this building an inclusive, thriving county. I would like to invite all my colleagues to join Councilmember Albornoz and I in investing in the future that grows our own through a justice and equity mindset. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember Albornoz.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everybody. It is truly a privilege and honor on this very special day. That was an extraordinary presentation. The breakfast was fabulous, and I am so honored and thrilled to be working alongside my 6 extraordinary colleagues and our remarkable staff, who your contributions are just unbelievable every day, not just on this dais, but in our community. So I am thrilled to be joining Councilmember Jawando to introduce what I think is an incredibly bold step to help address what all of us know is a problem. All of us know is growing. All of us sense frustration that the wealth gap that we see before us is widening. I have been in the public service space most of my professional career, just as all of you on this dais have as well. And it sure doesn't feel like things are getting better. It feels like things are getting more and more challenging for our families, but particularly our children and youth every day. And I think that we need to take bold steps while we are continuing to support both in policy and in budget the needs of our families today. We also have to make sure that we address their needs for tomorrow. And I was happy to join Councilmember Jawando 3 years ago when we introduced the guaranteed income legislation, which was another bold step in helping to ensure that we support families financially, which help improve their overall mental health and public health wellness, and I think makes a huge difference in our society as a whole. The challenges are well documented and we're all familiar with, and I think we need to take bold steps like this in order to address them more fully than we are today. I recognize that this bill needs some work. I recognize that as we go through the legislative process, many of the very thoughtful and reasonable questions that have been posed as we introduce this legislation will need to be answered, and I believe they will. I am normally, from a policymaking standpoint, a slow and steady wins the race kind of a person. But I feel the tremendous urgency right now on these years that I have left serving in this capacity to take bold steps like this. And that's why I was proud to join Councilmember Jawando in the introduction of this legislation. There will be many conversations, there will be many suggestions, there will likely be many amendments, but I look forward to taking this journey with all of you because I think the juice is worth the squeeze in this regard. So with that, I yield back to you, Mr. President. And also, I really want to thank Pam Luckett, who did some really heavy lifting from our team to get us here today and to get me here today to be able to sign on to this legislation. And thank you, Councilmember Jawando, for your continued leadership and that of your team.
Thank you to the lead sponsors. I think there's a tortoise and the hare reference in there somewhere. Let me turn it over to Councilmember Luque.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I suppose if Councilmember Albornoz is slow and steady, I got into the weeds. I'm getting really into the weeds, and I want to thank both of your offices for all of their patience over the past couple days in answering the many, many questions I have asked that are really nuts and bolts kinds of things about how to make it work. And so it probably is not going to come as a surprise that I'm asking to co-sponsor as well. I look forward to taking the best of what we know from existing programs like this that are already operating around the country. I'm grateful that we're taking this step to do what we can do here locally in Montgomery County, and look forward to collaborating on this bill moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mick.
This is a bold step, but that is what these times call for. Montgomery County has been a leader in so many ways, and this is an opportunity for us to lead in this space as well. I very much appreciate the work of Councilmember Jawando and Councilmember Albornoz in their respective offices. Have really been doing a lot of due diligence and research on this and a lot of back and forth on some of the questions. And as has been acknowledged, I'm sure those back and forths are going to continue. But I do think that this is taking us in the right direction. And that it is time for us to take bold steps, and that we'll see results. So I'm happy to co-sponsor this legislation as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Sales.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my colleagues, Councilmember Jawando and Councilmember Albornoz, for introducing this legislation. I think it's an innovative and important step in ensuring that we are investing in the young people who decide to live, work, and continue investing in the community that they were raised in. And so I would love to be added as a co-sponsor as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other speakers, so that bill is now introduced. We are going to move on to agenda item number 2. This is the final reading for Bill 4423, Human Rights and Civil Liberties, Prospective Employees, Healthcare Privacy. A joint Health and Human Services and Economic Development Committee recommends enactment. Chair Albornoz, would you please share the joint committee's recommendations?
Absolutely. Just give me a second. I have a new monitor here. Yes, that's right.
He's slow and steady.
That's right. That's right. Good morning again, everybody. This continues to be a wonderful morning. I just want to thank my colleague and friend, Councilmember Lutke, for her leadership on this. It was her initial legislation that provided these same protections to our county employees that served as the inspiration to ensure that these protections were made available to all employees here in Montgomery County. It is more than appropriate that we are passing this bill today on this month in recognition of the unprecedented challenges in my lifetime that women across this country are facing today. These are unsettling times for many, many, many different reasons. And it is critically important that we provide protections to all of our residents of Montgomery County, but particularly those that are under attack based on federal policies that have been enacted recently over the last several years. This legislation is common sense and I believe will make a significant difference in our community. We had a unanimous recommendation in favor of this legislation on the council, and so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Wellens to discuss anything I may have missed, but this was a very robust conversation and was supported unanimously by the committees.
Correct, and there were no amendments, so nothing further to add. Thanks.
Great.
Okay, no amendments. Thank you for the summary. Thank you for the very brief staff update. And we now have a recommendation from the joint HHS Econ Committee, which serves as a motion before the body. So we now have a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lutke?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutke votes yes. Councilmember Mink?
Yes.
Councilmember Mink votes yes. Councilmember Sales?
Yes.
Councilmember Sales votes yes. Councilmember Glass?
Yes.
Councilmember Glass votes yes. Councilmember Jawando?
Yes.
Councilmember Jawando votes yes. Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz votes yes. Councilmember Albornoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Albornoz votes yes. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez votes yes. Councilmember Balcom?
Yes.
Councilmember Balcom votes yes. Councilmember Friedson?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedson votes yes.
That passes unanimously, 10-0. Congratulations. Councilmember Jawando, did you have something on this item?
Not on this item, but just 10 seconds. Connor Weiss, who was our summer fellow who's watching, did a report on baby bonds, and I just want to say thank you. We've been working on this, and your presentation was a part of that process. So thank you, and good luck at school.
Thank you for the point of personal privilege, I think would be the technical term there, but no problem. Okay, great. We're going to move on to district council session. The council will now sit as the district council to continue the conversation and to have a straw vote on the Tacoma Park minor master plan. As you recall, we went through in depth the recommendations of the committee, which exhaustively went through these items. Ms. Dunn, I will allow you to offer any comments here if you'd like, but you did a great job last week going through all of these various items. Such a good job at the committee and by you that there really weren't many questions from us. So I'll turn to you if you have anything to add, at least at a high level, and then we will take a straw vote unless there are any colleagues who wish to comment. And we'll note again that the district council member was very active in the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, is on a trade mission with the county executive, which is why she's not currently present. Ms. Dunn?
Yes, good morning. Thank you. I just really wanted to thank the planning department for their responsiveness and hard work. You know, we worked for 3 long work sessions with the committee on this and had a lot of information that we requested and put into the staff reports. We did go through that with the council last week. We're here again if you have any questions, but I wanted to thank planning staff and the PHP committee for all the time they spent on the plan, and Councilmember Stewart as well, since she attended all of those meetings. And with that, I'm happy to be done.
Thank you very much. We, as noted, went through this last week. We will take a straw vote. I want to echo your comments, thanking the planning staff, thanking the planning board, thanking colleagues on the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, thanking all colleagues for joining the bus tour where we actually went out in the community, thanking all the residents who came as part of our intentional effort to be in the communities that are impacted by land use decisions. We had a great turnout Thursday evening a couple months back. This has been a thoughtful and deliberative process, and one that I think we should all be proud of, and one that we hope will lead to positive outcomes for housing, for the environment, and for community building. So very much look forward to that. And with that, is there a motion?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Balcom, seconded by Councilmember Lukey. All those in favor? That is unanimous by all those present. We will take a roll call vote next week, as is the practice, just for those watching. The resolution will
April
be
2nd.
April 2nd, excuse me, next week. Next meeting, which is not necessarily next week. We are on recess as a result of spring break for MCPS, which we traditionally do, and so we'll be back on April 2nd to take a roll call vote with the resolution.
Right, I just wanted to mention that the resolution should post sometime this afternoon or tomorrow, so it will be online for anyone who's interested in reading it prior to that vote.
So there's plenty of opportunity for the public to see it. You'll have essentially 2 weeks, which we appreciate. Thank you again to colleagues. And we are ready to move on to agenda item number 4, the introduction, work session, and action on Executive Regulation 424, Late Night Business Safety Plan Program. I'm going to call up Ms. Farag, which we appreciate your work on this, and we'll just thank everybody for their work. There's, just to eliminate confusion, there is a late night safety bill, which is a separate effort, and there is an executive regulation that is already an existing effort that has been sent over by the county executive. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we are taking up the regulation here and not the bill, which will be taken up at our next meeting on April 2nd. With that, before turning to Ms. Farag, let me turn it to the Public Safety Chair, Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It seems like it was longer ago than this, but last May, the council adopted Bill 1423, which was the Late Night Business Safety Plan, because of the concern about late night crimes in Silver Spring as well as in other areas in the county. I want to publicly thank Vice President Stewart for her assistance. Later today, we're actually going to be giving a proclamation for mom and pop businesses. And I think it should be noted that this is going to be helping mom and pop businesses along with all the other businesses and residents that live in the area. This bill requires certain businesses that are open between 12 midnight and 5 a.m. to obtain a safety plan before operating in Montgomery County. These individual plans are unique to each business and its needs and includes a grant program that allows for financial support to help enhance their security measures. The proposed regulations outline a unified safety plan process for certain late-night businesses, and I agree that we should turn this over to Ms. Farag. Thank you.
Ms. Farag, we will turn it over to you.
Well, as usual, Councilmember Katz covered all the salient points here. I did want to let you know, unfortunately, Chief Jones and Dr. Stoddard are on their way, and Chief Jones told me he's 6 minutes away, and Dr. Stoddard is walking over as we speak. There are a lot of questions that council member staff have given me, which I've included in this packet, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer those. Only Chief Jones and Dr. Stoddard will be. So,
would you like to summarize some of the questions that have been asked and the responses that
Sure.
we've received? And
a lot of them are operational, and I had just gotten a question while I was in the audience whether or not they had the website portal that was up. All the businesses that have to apply will apply to a website portal in a similar way that they do for the private security camera rebate program. So the first question is, has MCPD already developed a required safety plan template? And if not, will that be available for the council review? So that goes hand in hand with the portal. As soon as we can get that information, and maybe they've got it already, I can make sure that it gets over to the council members to take a look at. The other one was the fiscal impact statement. Was estimating about 20 businesses would participate in the first year. This question looks at how did they derive that number. There is $100,000 in the county executive's recommended budget in the police department to reimburse for these rebates. It would also, and they're up to $10,000 for each business. It would be helpful to know whether or not this is an ongoing rebate. Some of these businesses may have to hire off-duty security police officers for security, that type of thing, and it might be on an ongoing basis. So that would be a helpful question to better understand. With respect to the safety plan review panel, how will they complete their duties at a practical level? Is the idea that they will meet in person or virtually to discuss each of these proposed plans? Another question is, does the serious incident provision include incidents that occurred before these regulations actually go into effect or afterwards? And they wanted to know if a Class A violation, which is a $500 per day fine, is it per day or is it per violation? They also wanted to know, will the county provide any resources, special outreach, language support for this grant to be used by small minority-owned businesses or businesses in racial equity areas that are likely to be affected by the law? And if businesses are in the private security camera rebate eligibility areas, can they take advantage of both of those rebates? And I have talked a little bit preliminarily with Lieutenant Helton of the police department, said that a lot of these areas are already eligible for the private camera security rebate program. Particularly small businesses should be able to participate in both. So I'm trying really hard to fill time. Okay, I'll talk more
no
slowly.
problem. Do any colleagues have any questions for Ms. Farag? All right, we'll take a 3-minute recess to wait for the chief and Dr. Stoddard to be here. So if anybody needs to take a coffee break, and then we'll be back in 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to resume from a brief recess. Welcome the Chief and Dr. Stoddard here with us. Let me turn it over to Councilmember Jawando, unless Chief or Dr. Stoddard, do you have any comments you want to make at the outset?
Chief, we're glad you and Steve getting
We appreciate it. We want to note that all laws were followed in the transportation and travel here for the Chief and for Dr. Stoddard, who got his steps in.
Did not jaywalk at all, just so we're clear.
Yeah, Dr. Stoddard and I have spoken about the steps, so we made sure we got you extra steps, extra briskly. Councilmember Jawando.
We need that CIP for the hawk signal right across that exactly to make it a little quicker. Thank you for hustling over, and thank you, Ms. Farag, for mentioning. And we read off the questions before you all arrived, but the first three were actually questions from our office and that I had made, and so I'm going to ask those. I'll read them slowly and I'll pause between each one, so hopefully you can respond with whatever information you have. But as Councilmember Katz mentioned, we passed this back in May of last year. We're now in the latter half of March, and I just wanted to understand, the bill was pretty directive. Just what happened in the, obviously a lot of always going on. Is there a reason that it took, in my opinion, relatively long to get these regulations over? We're obviously considering legislation in 2 weeks on late night businesses, and part of the discussion at the time when we passed this bill was that we were going to let this get into effect and see how it worked before we took additional steps. But here we're about to take additional steps. So just could you, whoever's, maybe Dr. Stoddard, it looks like you have your mic on. What happened?
Yeah, so we took about a 6-month period with a work group. Actually, was meeting with because we wanted to make sure there's the details around of actually how you would enforce it and how it should look, and also, I have a background in sort of emergency planning and facility emergency plans, but not in the safety and security realm. So we wanted to make sure that we, obviously, so in the background you have the regulations, but I think we'll be talking about the template that we're talking about here too. So we wanted to make sure we had all those pieces well informed, and we didn't put anything in the regulations that we wouldn't be able to actually enforce or we shouldn't be requiring of businesses. So we tried to take a thoughtful process. Things take longer than you would like them to take, for sure. We had hoped to have this done, candidly in the fall. Obviously, things got delayed a little bit from there, but it was mostly around having a work group to be thoughtful about the process and what should be included in not just the regulations, but also the plans themselves.
And how many businesses were on the work group?
So it was mostly we had some chamber conversations, but not necessarily specific businesses, because what we realize is each business operates in a very different way from another business, mostly because of when we got really into the nitty gritty of this has a one street front, this one has an alleyway, this one has 2 street fronts, and how those operate. Obviously, a hookah lounge is going to operate very differently from a bar, so obviously we had some differences there. We did not have typically many businesses, but we had chamber representatives.
Okay, so just to be clear, there were no businesses that could potentially be impacted that were part of the work group?
Correct.
Okay. To your knowledge, have any of the businesses voluntarily complied with components of this safety plan since it was enacted, even though there weren't regulations?
I know that even prior to passage of the legislation last year, there were some businesses that were participating in like a safety collaborative, where I think some of the businesses were collectively pulling together resources to hire off-duty security. Candidly, I do know there were some issues with that, where I think somebody was fronting for a large number of organizations, and some of the organizations weren't putting in their fair share to cover. But there were efforts to try and have self coordination and self alignment within the business community around this space. It just in not all cases did it work. And obviously, I think part of this, and we'll talk about this too, is there's a grant component to this. So actually, the county will be putting in resources to help these businesses achieve compliance, and compliance can look in multiple fashions. It could be both technology infrastructure. It could also be personnel in terms of providing that additional security as well.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and as you know, I was very involved in that initial meeting that led to some of that organic work. Okay, just the other question I had, we talked about also when this bill was introduced about DEP and noise, just having the conversations around getting 24-hour enforcement of some of the existing code enforcement issues, whether it be noise or food trucks or that. And you said at the time, you and others, that would be a union conversation. We'd have to talk about that. Has any of that gone?
Yeah. So actually, we've done a fair bit of enforcement on the food trucks. That was actually one area. Noise is actually really complicated, and I actually think you're going to be seeing a proposed change to the noise regulation here in the county based on feedback from both the county attorney's office and DEP around enforcement. We've actually been having a fair number of conversations about Veterans Plaza generally, but also downtown. Downtown Spring presents a whole host of challenges because it's the interaction of residential with entertainment sector as well as nightlife. And we've had actually a separate worker group, and Council Vice President Stewart has been a member of that, talking a lot about what we are going to do in Veterans Plaza, specifically around noise, but it would apply more broadly because there are implications for enforcement elsewhere. We actually had a number of teams out in the Silver Spring area, not to be overly harsh on Silver Spring because it just presents the most unique challenges given the dynamics that we've, the nighttime economy we've built in downtown Silver Spring. And essentially with noise, we can see where there are noise levels that exceed the limits of the county regulation, but the baseline noise levels in downtown Silver Spring from ambient street noise also violate the ordinances. And so it makes it very challenging to enforce when you've got a baseline metrics that already exceed the acceptable levels, and then there may be businesses that are, or businesses, there may be events, there may be street performers that are all way in excess of that, but it becomes hard to differentiate when everyone's above the baseline. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And yes, we've talked about this for years. There's a ton of stuff with the noise ordinance that I think we need to address separately. But if we just to hone it on the late night component of noise, right? Because the busking isn't happening at least consistently at 2 a.m.
Yeah, we don't.
Are there DEP people that can come out at 2, 3 a.m.? Because again, part of this conversation has been there's a lot of stress on the police force. They have to cover a large area in the 3rd District. Some of these things potentially could be addressed through compliance of other county services. Is that happening? Can that happen today?
Yes, it is already happening. We did multiple enforcement, monitoring events last year. I think we got our next meeting actually is, I want to say early next meeting with the Silver Spring Safety Task Force, and that will generate another safety visit. We typically focus more around the spring through fall period because that's when the outdoor activities that the rooftop decks, all those things are open, and so you see more external noise and things in that time period, and also you see more activity in downtown Silver Spring, both in terms of potential fire code violations of too many people in the establishments, or some of the more problematic behavior occurs during the summer.
Like code-based kind of things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there are staff
yes.
that are not law enforcement that can work in those hours to enforce.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. And
I've been on several. Several police do come with us because obviously, there could be police-related violations that we observe, but we include permitting services. We include actually the state alcohol tobacco commission has come along too for enforcement of those things. Liquor, ABS as well as the DEP noise. We have a team that includes all those as well as the regional service center staff as well.
Got it. And then I'll just turn to the questions in the packet. The first 3 that we submitted. Has MCPD already developed the required safety plan template? And if not, when will that be available for council review? Chief Jones.
So the template is being finalized now. We have to work not only with the finalization just to make sure it meets all the criteria, but we're also making sure we can work with TABS in order to be able to have it accessible to the public for them to be able to download it and to fill that in and submit that. So, yes.
And you can share that with us.
We just intentionally did not include it with the regulation because we didn't want to have to get a regulation modification anytime we updated the portal or something like that. So we kept it separate so that I didn't want to have it be tied to the very official process of the regulation, although it'll exactly reflect everything that's in the regulation.
And obviously, no one can be judged on it until that's done.
100%. We would not, yeah, exactly.
Okay. The fiscal impact statement notes that there was estimated to be 20 businesses that are required to produce the plan based on the bill and the regulations. How was that determined? Where are they located? Are they all hookah lounges? Is there outreach going to be done? Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so we were using the same estimate of between 20 and 30 businesses that we've been using all along. And I think that's largely based on research, literally looking at their websites and seeing operation time, as well as getting anecdotal evidence from both enforcement of police and as well as all others about when people are operating. Now, obviously, you mentioned the legislation that you all are considering on the hookah hours, and that obviously would impact the number of businesses that might be eligible should that pass in whatever form. And so, obviously, this is very much subject to change given that legislation, because you could see changes in the hours of operation of a number of establishments. Now, obviously, the other thing that we cannot at this point estimate is the number of businesses that would meet the 2 serious incident provision. I know there's a question later about when would those triggers be had, and we'll talk about it then. But obviously, we're going into this assuming we're starting with 0 in that category, because we're not going to have any businesses that have 2 serious incidents before the regulations. But obviously, how that will be. It's a guess about that. And so much like I think the private security camera bill, we didn't know exactly how many people would take advantage of that. We'll have to, we will propose, whatever businesses apply, we'd like to get the resources that were committed by the council and the executive under the legislation. But we would likely come back for a supplemental if we needed to, because there were more businesses that qualified than we realized at the time.
Appreciate that. The safety plan review panel, is the idea that they'll meet virtually or discuss each plan, or in person, and how have you thought about that?
Yeah, so I'll be sort of coordinating that group, and so we'll convene everybody. We'll go through every plan in the same way you would do a sort of plan review. Where's the business? Do we have any? What does the frontage look like? Is it just a review, and then look at their plan and say, okay, they have what we need to, or hey, maybe they should add this, and then each plan would get that review. Obviously, we've talked about the fact that if there are businesses, either through the serious provision or others in different regional service center areas, we'd have different representation to reflect the area in which that plan. So you'll have a specific committee for each of those plans. There's a common set of people who will be on every group, and then you'll mix in the regionally specific people for the plan reviews of those specific plans.
We can follow up on those details. Last thing, and I'll pass it out. Thank you for the indulgence. I've seen heat maps we all have in relation to the 2 to 7 a.m. period in downtown Silver Spring. I've asked this informally. I'm going to ask it formally. We would like to see an hour-to-hour breakdown, Chief, of 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. I just think it's important to go eyes wide open here to know what's happening. There's a lot of things in play, as I mentioned at the beginning. So I just wanted to say that on the record. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this morning. Dr. Stoddard, you were alluding to the series of questions I have when you referenced the late night safety bill that we'll be taking up in a few weeks, and also with the rebate program, security camera rebate program that we already have and have been expanded. And so just to ask the question and maybe elicit a broader conversation, the Economic Development Committee and Public Safety Committee jointly approved the late night safety bill. And so it will be coming to the council in a few weeks. And the purpose of that bill is to bring all late night businesses into compliance, one compliance, which is the definition of fairness, right? And so it seems that the size and scope of this regulation will change, and you alluded to that. Can you share a little bit more about any changes you see taking place, and the follow-up I'll ask now is it premature to approve this regulation before we approve that law?
Well, I think what you'd see mostly is the number of businesses that would be qualified under this regulation. Now, and particularly those that standardly operate between 2 and 7 a.m. I think the other provision that we included was the serious incident, which would obviously apply to any business that's midnight and after anywhere in the county. And candidly, while I'm not going to besmirch any particular business, there are certain businesses in the county that are not just in downtown Silver Spring, where there have been repetitive issues in those same establishments, serious incidents over the years, where we could easily have 2 serious incidents this summer. And I think it would be entirely appropriate for them to have a safety plan, not as a punitive measure, because we're actually fiscally going to be supporting them in implementing this plan, but as a, we want people, when they live, work, and play in Montgomery County, to be safe while doing it. And so it's not to criticize any particular business, but if things are repetitively happening in those establishments, we want them to be safer in those establishments. So, I mean, I think that you'll be reviewing the budget. We've reduced the fiscal allocation proposed in the budget to $100,000 based on the fact that you all are considering this legislation, and I think that number would be, smaller if you all pass the separate hour limitation. But I think that's the most important place where you would see this. And just the number of businesses that would qualify would obviously be a lot smaller under this proposed regulation. Obviously, we would encourage you not to delay, because obviously we want something to be in place so that we can start collecting the serious incidents if they occur this particular summer. Because I would not want, if multiple incidents do occur over the summer, that they not be considered as part of this process.
I appreciate that, and agree that we don't need to delay because the scope of the regulation might change based on a future law, right? And that's the purpose here. And I want to re-up the point that you said, that the whole purpose here is because we have some businesses who are not good neighbors. They are not looking out for their patrons' best interest, the surrounding residential neighborhood's best interest, or their fellow business owners' best interest. And it is a small group, but they gotta do better. And unfortunately, through lots of conversations, they have not stepped up to for that level of self-improvement, and here we are having this conversation about laws and regulations. The second question I had was about the grant program for according to this regulation, a $10,000 rebate for security measures or otherwise. The security rebate program provides up to $2,500 for small businesses to have a camera program, rebates for cameras. And I want to thank you and Chief Jones for expanding that, right? This is all a learning exercise, and so the tightly defined scope limited some individuals and businesses' needs, and so appreciate you expanding the scope so that we have more people participating in that program. But how do we square the $2,500 rebate with the $10,000 grant that is in this regulation?
Yes, I think it's important to recognize the regulation is intentionally. And the law that led to the regulation, we're intentionally limiting around when the panel can require cameras. Okay. And so obviously, cameras will not be expected as part of the safety plans for every business. However, generally speaking, I support businesses availing themselves of cameras as a means to address all sorts of issues. So the way the county would handle this is you can apply for both programs. Obviously, you're not going to be double reimbursed for the same thing twice.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, and so if you did get a private security grant for a camera, we would not be giving you money for a separate camera in the grant for the safety plan. Okay. But I think that's important.
But there might be other needs.
There might be other needs.
Could be.
We talk a lot about the locks on doors, the removing of like whether it's removing of tinting on windows or uncovering windows, or making sure that you have the appropriate personnel to provide security during your business hours. Mm-hmm. Things of that nature would still be reimbursable.
Great, thank you. Last point I'll raise is one I know a lot of us have been talking about, and appreciate Councilmember Jawando recognizing. The noise ordinance is complicated. It is within the Department of Environmental Protection, and I appreciate Dr. Stoddard you alluding, foreshadowing a conversation there, because the two aspects that I have seen as a nearly 25-year resident of that area, is you have the late night music that is coming out of some of those restaurants and bars that are mostly affecting the apartment buildings. And then on the flip side, you have the daytime noise by the farmers market and other places that are probably more family friendly. And the complaints I get most asked about is about the proselytizing with the most hateful rhetoric I have heard. And we have to have a conversation about First Amendment rights and about public spaces. It is not going to be an easy conversation, but I appreciate you recognizing it's one that we have to have and look forward to that conversation. So thank you, Mr. President.
I just want to we're actually at the point of already having the county attorney look at what other places have been successful in doing. Obviously, I think Veterans Plaza is our only qualified entertainment sector. Obviously, Marion Friar would be another one where we've had issues with, with similar kinds of things, though not to the extent of what we've seen in downtown Silver Spring. But it is certainly a space, and the balance between the First Amendment and what your First Amendment rights to magnify your voice through electronic means, for example, are things that we're certainly looking at and what's possible and how we, candidly, I think Jacob Newman, the Regional Service Center Director, is actually in the process of going and they're working with DEP to start getting baseline noise measurements so we can understand exactly what we would have to, where we would have to set the limits to be able to catch the behavior that is most egregious. We've heard from restaurants. Locavino is very active right above the plaza. People can't enjoy sitting and dining outdoors without be able to carry on a conversation because of the cacophony of noise that's coming. And it has, yes, the speech itself is hateful. The volume of the speech, irrespective of what's being said, is also unmanageable.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Appreciate that, and we'll know we have a lot of amazing things in Montgomery County, but none of it works. None of it really matters if residents can't enjoy it safely, if businesses can't go about their business safely. So really appreciate these efforts as part of this executive regulation, the bill that's going to be before us on April the 2nd, as I mentioned at the outset, and all of the work in challenging circumstances, frankly, that our public safety professionals are doing every day. So thank you for that. Let me turn to Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilmember Glass, for raising the concerns, which are the First Amendment's a very delicate balance and highly complex, and I certainly appreciate that, but there is also a good balance to be struck. And if I can ever help, you know where to find me. My questions are circling back to, and I thank you, Dr. Stoddard, for reminding us that this is not a punitive measure. It's supposed to be a problem-solving measure, and it's supposed to be collaborative. And I remember when we discussed the bill itself at Public Safety Committee, we did talk about the fact that entities could voluntarily develop these safety plans too, just as a matter of risk management and good business practice, right? That it didn't have to be imposed upon them. Other businesses, even if they haven't had 2 violations, could just choose to do this. And I think that's good to keep that in the spirit of what we're doing in terms of proactive prevention and good neighborly cooperation. You mentioned that we'd be starting at 0 once the regulations went into effect. And my question was there any consideration given to a 12-month look-back period to start?
Not a lawyer. You certainly are, and you could tell me whether that would be permissible or not. I have to go back and look. I don't think any business would qualify even if we did, but certainly that's something we could take a look at just as a matter of course to see whether there would be any business that would qualify. Now, obviously, if there have been serious incidents that have occurred at establishments over the last several months, if another one occurred over the next 3 or 4 months, then I think it could really start to come into effect there. But obviously, not a lawyer. We'd have to get some opinion about whether we could look post-passage of the law, pre-passage of the regulations at the serious incidents. And I think that's something I can't answer today.
and I don't want to put anybody else on the spot right now, so I'm not going to, but I think it is certainly a prudent exercise to determine which, if any, businesses have had 2 or more serious events in the past 12 months, just as a starting point. And again, whether there's legal advice that comes that a retroactive 12-month look back is permissible or not, you then have the ability to know which businesses were affected, even if you're not going to look back, and try to get them to voluntarily cooperate and offer assistance, which I think is a wise practice. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Sale.
Thank you for briefing us on this legislation and answering all of our questions. I just had a quick question about the businesses that may not be in compliance. I know that it's $500 per incident or per day. Is there a grace period to allow businesses to adjust and make the recommended improvements before a fine is administered?
Yeah, so the way this process would work, and I'm pulling back up, but I think that, you know, once the regulation is approved and the portal is live and they can upload their plans, they'll have 90 days, I think, believe, from then to submit their plans, and then we have about 30 days, I think, to review their plans.
Okay.
We provide them feedback on their plans, and then they have additional time to implement that plan before they are held to that plan.
Okay.
And so once they're held to the plan, then obviously each violation, so for example, if they implement their plan, but they do it in an incomplete way, or they do it in a complete way but then fall out of compliance with it later, and we come in and find them in violation for whatever part of it, then it would be a violation. It could be a violation every single day that they operate under those violations. But this is not, and I think this is not intended to be a gotcha. We will work with businesses.
Yeah.
That we do this all the time, even with other. If someone's making a good faith effort to comply, we are not issuing them citations all the time. And candidly, they're going to go to the courthouse, and they're going to be able to, a judge is going to find them not to be liable for all of those violations. If there are bad actors who are intentionally and willfully ignoring the requirement to do it, or who produce a plan and then never make any effort at all to implement it, then obviously we will have to be more aggressive with it for enforcement in those cases to get the desired outcome. But the goal is not going to be overly enforcing in businesses who are making a good faith effort to simply meet the requirements of the law and regulation.
All right. Thank you so much. That's all I had.
Thank you. I don't see any other colleagues wishing to speak, so I think we are prepared to take a vote. Is there a motion to approve Executive Regulation 424?
So moved.
That
Second.
is moved by the Chair of the Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Katz, seconded by Councilmember Sales. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Okay, great. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Dr. Stoddard. Appreciate your work on this item, and as noted, we will be back in a couple weeks to discuss the bill that is related to this item. The next several agenda items are included as part of the Council's work session on the FY 25 to 30 Capital Improvements Program. The County Executive transmitted the CIP budget to the Council on January 16th, and the Council committees have been hard at work to review the projects and project amendments as submitted. The Council will be reviewing and taking preliminary straw votes on the committee recommendations to date. As colleagues know, ultimately the CIP recommendations across departments and agencies will need to be reconciled within spending affordability guidelines and in conjunction with our review and ultimate approval of the operating budget. The first item to discuss is Agenda Item 5, Capital Improvements Program under the umbrella of Conservation of Natural Resources, Storm Drains, Conservation of Natural Resources, Stormwater Management. Chair Glass, would you please share the recommendations from the Transportation Environment Committee's review of this CIP?
Thank you, Mr. President. I note the absence of Mr. Levchenko, and so I will introduce the measure as we await his arrival. The Transportation and Environment Committee met on March 4th to talk about the storm drain and stormwater management projects in the CIP. And this agenda item, they're broken up into two. So we will take up first the storm drains. And this is an area that's of acute importance at this point in time here in Montgomery County. We know that flooding is an occurrence that is increasing with its frequency and intensity. According to an OLO report from a few years ago, there's been an increase in urban flooding from 2 to 4 occurrences that originally happened in 2010, and they've increased up to nearly 39 occurrences since 2010, before 2010 and post 2010. So we're seeing a noticeable increase there. And that is why this CIP item is important. The county executive has recommended $35.2 million for this item. And the T&E committee unanimously recommended approval. And I am right on time as Mr. Levchenko walks his way up and catches his breath and turns on his mic. And then I will ask, is there anything else to add?
The only thing I would add is we did get an amendment from the executive on or not an amendment, a revision to the CIP on March 14th for a storm drain project. I'm not sure if you'd brought that up already.
I have not.
The Seven Locks culvert. So we'll review that later in conjunction with the operating budget discussions.
Yes.
So we don't have a chance to turn it around today, but we will bring that up at T&E at a later date.
Thank you. And there are a few other things we'll bring up at T&E related to amendments the county executive sent over. But thank you for lifting up that item. And that is it, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a committee recommendation. We'll take a straw vote. All those in favor of this item, please indicate by raising your hand. That is unanimous by all those present. We're going to move on to our...
I have a B item, so let me take up
Okay,
the
go
packet.
ahead. Yep, sure.
Thank you. So the second item within the packet is on stormwater management, which has received much more conversation. I want to start by thanking the Department of Environmental Protection for taking members of the T&E committee, staff, others, I know the council president was there, and members of the community to see this work firsthand. It's really important for us to see the product of this investment in particular parts of the county, because the reality is we are required to control over 1,800 acres of impervious surface, and that is a combination of state law and federal mandates with the Clean Water Act. And so we are doing what we can to make sure that the stormwater runoff is mitigated. And so in this budgetary item, there's $306.3 million towards stormwater management projects. I will note that during the T&E committee session, when we talked about this item, we recognize that 46% of this funding goes toward downstream mitigation, and that's the stream restoration. That has elicited concerns from members of the public, and I know all my colleagues have received these correspondences. And while that is 46% of this funding, there's only 3 to 5% of the funding that goes towards more green infrastructure. Bioretention and rainscapes and other water retention gardens. And the committee was unanimous in asking DEP that as we, after we approve this, that more funds are utilized for more upstream conservation efforts, working with our neighbors, working within our right-of-way to try and capture more rainwater before it actually reaches our creeks and our streams. And that was a unanimous support for this item from the T&E committee. Mr. Levchenko, anything else?
The only other thing to note is we do have a new project with placeholder dollars in it for the implementation of the flood management plan. So right now, the study is still ongoing in Phase 2. Phase 1 identified the priority watersheds. Phase 2 is looking at a little more detailed analysis of those watersheds and the kind of work that can be done in those areas. And then those projects will then go to the appropriate implementer, whether it's if it's a storm drain project, it would go to DOT. If it's stormwater management related, DEP would handle that. Could be parks, whoever the entities are. But that's a significant upfront investment showing in the CIP now for that work that's coming out of that study.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lopchenko. And that is our unanimous report, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a unanimous report. I don't see any colleagues wishing to speak. All those in favor of this item, please indicate by raising your hands, and that is unanimous as well. Okay, we're going to move on to our next item up for review, the Capital Improvements Program for Recycling and Resource Management. This is also something that was reviewed by the Transportation and Environment Committee, so I'll turn back to you, Chair Glass.
Give me 1 second. And I am trying to find my note on the recap, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Lopchenko to get us started.
Sure. Just real quickly regarding the Recycling Resource Management CIP, the total 6-year CIP is $41.4 million. You have a couple of projects that are moving through the construction aspect of the CIP. So you have the one project is actually completed, the transfer station fire detection and suppression system. You also have the Goody landfill remediation project, which is also moving through the CIP. There is one new project recommended. It's the Oaks Landfill Leachate Pretreatment Plant retrofitting project for the closed landfill. As a closed landfill, the county still has a responsibility to maintain those facilities. And this is one facility on that site that will need work. There could be others as well that come up in the future. The other thing I did want to note is, as with I mentioned earlier about the executive's March 14th CIP revisions that came over, there was also a project in there related to this category of CIP, a new organics processing facility that we'll be talking about at a future T&E meeting. So stay tuned on that. But otherwise, this CIP, with the exception of that Oaks project, was basically a status CIP as those projects move through construction.
Thank you, Mr. Lopchenko. I've since found my notes, and they agree with everything that you just said, thankfully. So the importance here, colleagues, is as we continue our environmental stewardship, this is one additional way that we need to invest so that we reduce our waste stream so that we can do more things. I know that there's been lots of conversation over the last number of years about the incinerator, about food composting, about waste management in general, and the only way that we are going to improve our local ecology is by improving our infrastructure and stopping things along the within the waste management system. And so this investment is important, and as Mr. Lopchenko said, there are more conversations that the committee will be having in the coming months about other proposals and projects to have a local green environment. So with that, and that was a unanimous report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. That is a unanimous recommendation. All those in favor of this recommendation, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous as well. So the straw votes from the E&T committee, that takes us to our next agenda item, number 7, the CIP for the Department of Health and Human Services, Diversion Center and Non-Congregant Shelter Space. Chair Albornoz, would you share the recommendations from the Health and Human Services Committee's review of this CIP? And as you are getting ready, we'll call up our colleagues from the executive branch who I see are here to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Yao, for your hard work on this, and to our colleagues in the executive branch for once again being such wonderful partners. There were two projects that we discussed in committee. The first was the Diversion Center project, formerly known as the Restoration Center, which is an ongoing project that provides for the design and construction of a facility that will provide services that support the diversion of people experiencing a behavioral health crisis from emergency room departments and criminal justice facilities. The recommended project increases total project costs from the FY23 to 28 CIP by $3.749 million, including an increase of $1.2 million in state aid and $2.549 million in GO bonds. We know this facility has generated a lot of community conversation. Everyone agrees that it is long overdue and so needed right now. I want to appreciate the efforts of my colleague, Councilmember Katz, who has fielded many questions from his constituents. We have gone down a long road, and I also appreciate the numerous community conversations we've had to get us to this point. It is important and critical that this project moves forward, and so it received a favorable vote from the committee unanimously. The second one was for the non-congregate shelter space, which is a new project proposed by the executive branch that provides for the development of program of requirements for a project that provides shelter space for those that have had difficulty using congregate shelter options, including individuals with behavioral health disorders and LGBTQs, members of our community. The recommended project programs $150,000 in federal grant funds. I want to thank Ms. Kim and her team for their work and for their diligence to bring this forward. This is also a very needed project and one that the committee also supported unanimously as well. So both projects received a unanimous vote. With that, I yield back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, and we have a consensus here. Unless colleagues have any comments, I don't see any. All those in favor of this item, please indicate by raising your hands. That is unanimous among all those present. So the last CIP item for review this morning is the Public Arts Trust. I'm going to turn it to Chair Jawando to please share the recommendations from the Education and Culture Committee's review of this particular CIP.
Thank you, Mr. President. The E&C Committee recommends approval for the Public Arts Trust CIP for $2.4 million over the next 6 years. This helps our county incorporate art into public spaces and facilities to showcase the local community and diversity. And really we had a brief but very good conversation about how this is happening, and we know the Public Art Trust will continue to be utilized across the country to county to complete new and existing projects. Turn it over to Mr. Krupe if there's anything I missed.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Another unanimous consensus recommendation to the body. All those in favor of this straw vote item in the CIP, please indicate by raising your hand. That is unanimous among all those present. Thank you to the committees for their work thus far. We continue our work on the CIP. As a reminder to colleagues, we'll discuss the CIPs for libraries in Montgomery College later this afternoon. And now on to item number 9 on our agenda, the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Lukey, seconded by Councilmember Sales. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous among all those present. And we are now adjourned. The council is looking forward to celebrating National Agriculture Day, and we will be on the 4th floor and in recess until 1 o'clock before we have a couple presentations, including National Agriculture Day and Mom and Pop Business Day at that time. So we're in recess until 1 o'clock. Thank you.